Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and today I'm pleased to welcome Brent Frain as my guest. Me, myself, and I. Oh, this is great. Always a pleasure having myself join
having myself on my show.
Yeah, I just had to say that. I mean, it's always great having my own self join my own show.
I'm having a celebratory Milky. Have you ever had these?
No, I haven't.
These? They're really cool. It's from Korea.
Oh wow.
I'm a big fan of Korean stuff. I've always said, well, maybe I haven't always said it, but I love Korean K-dramas and Korean movies, and I love there's Korean ice cream.
Oh wow.
Korean drinks like this. What it is it sounds gross, but it's carbonated yogurt drink, and it sounds disgusting, right?
Oh,
but it's so good. Like it's kind of like a cream soda.
Oh, nice.
But like
nice.
when I first saw it, I go carbonated yogurt drink. That's disgusting, I kind of refused to buy it. But I thought, well, it's from Korea, so it's got to be good. So I'll just try it, and it's like really good. It's not my new addiction now, Milky.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. I got the Java right here. Yeah. So yeah, well, welcome to myself and me, myself, and I, all the same. Great person. Well, at least I try to be great. Great to myself, and just appreciating myself of who I am. And yeah, that's kind of where, yeah, not self-congratulating myself, but just recognizing myself just for who I am, and people take me for who I am. I've come a long way from when I was a child, like a little infant, to where I am now, learning from others, Neil, and everybody listening. I self-advocating. I learn from others. I bring people on the show and talk about lived experience. And that's a passion for me. It's a passion, learning from others, learning about, self-teaching myself about things that I really take keen in advocating for, to make change, to try to make things better for people and for myself along the way. There's been stumbling blocks of learning curves for sure. Like we all have, we've all had gone through. I mean, we've gone through a pandemic, and I've gone through situations in my life when I was a little toddler, learning to cope, and that's where I'm going to begin. Learning to cope with my disability. I didn't realize when I was born, so this is where I'm going to begin here. So when I was born, I was born completely blind. All I could see was shadows, apparently. And my mother, who brought me up, basically she was in the hospital at the time. And this is what I learned growing up, which I'm so grateful, and God rest my mom's soul. As I said yesterday in the podcast where I left off, and it was a little teaser where I left off, and little hints of what I was going to be talking about today, so people just have a better idea of my origin. So this is where it begins. Is that my origin is that my mother brought me up because she was in hospital having surgery, and she wasn't able to have children, but she wanted to have children. She really wanted to have children, but unfortunately she was not able to. So she was in the hospital, and there was other beds in the same rooms, and there was another lady that was in the hospital, and she was having a baby. Yeah, the other lady that was in the room, and my mom got talking with the other lady, and it became that the lady that was in there is actually my aunt. That's
Mm.
right. So the lady that was in there is actually my biological aunt, who gave birth to my cousin. So because by law, my mom had got my aunt's baby. So because she gave the her child up to my mom, and so that was a year and a half later. I was then born by my aunt's sister, who so now basically my biological mother. I got to know as I grew up later. I got to know who she was, and like I kept seeing a lady that would come by every so often, and I knew who my grandma was, and she'd come by, and
Mm.
I'd see my aunt, and there was another lady came by, and my grandpa came by, and this lady's like, oh, hello, or she'd phone up first, right, and she says, hi, Brent, how are you? And I'm like, fine, how are you? And I think she was my aunt, or right, or I'm like, and so she was so inquisitive of who I was and like how I'm doing. And I said, fine. She goes, can I speak to your mother? But the tone of the voice was it was kind of like a hesitation, and I never
Mm.
like I kind of picked up on something there, like, can I speak to your mother? Meanwhile, I didn't realize that she was my biological mother.
Mhm.
That must
Mhm.
have been so hard for her, like
Yes.
talking to me, that and then saying, "Oh, can I speak to your mother?" I go, "Yeah, one moment, please." And I'd be so professional, when I was a kid. I still remember. One moment, please. I'll get
Please,
my
please
mom.
hold the line, and then you have hold
I
music.
did, I did. I actually said that. I remember that too. I said, "Yeah, please hold the line. I'll go and get my mom." I said, this lady's on the phone. She phones up here quite often. Oh yeah, I know. She's a great person, and they're gonna come by and visit you one day soon. I'm like, oh, grandpa gonna come, and yeah, and your aunts. And my mom so much wanted to tell me at that point that
Mm.
she wasn't my aunt. She was actually my biological mother. So so they came by, and there was something that I picked up on, that it was just like a resemblance, like a somewhat
Mhm.
resemblance. And yeah, and so as I became older, I then become to realize that there was something not quite right here. Like my mom sat down
Mhm.
with me and said, okay, I need to tell you something. Like, so I found out that she was my biological mother.
Mhm.
But so anyway, getting back to the beginning, when I was born, I was born well, blind, well, almost blind. Like it was, I couldn't. All I see was shadows. Doctors were really worried because like what's going on? Like I wasn't responding how I was supposed to respond. I wasn't picking up on signals. All they would wave their hand and I wouldn't respond, and uh, I guess my balance was off too. Like my balance
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
completely off. So
Mhm.
they had to like kind of put me through like rehabilitation on learning how to walk. I don't remember a lot about that. I do like vaguely like little flashes of in the hospital of like a little walker kind of learning how to kind of stay stable, and it was because my vision was completely off. Like, and so like as I grew up as a toddler, I would walk into walls, like I would see two doors, and I thought
Mhm.
it was like double vision, and so
Mhm.
I didn't realize what was going on there,
If
and
there
so I
was
walked
a third door, you would think
to the
you're
third
on
door.
the if you, you would think you're on Let's Make a Deal.
Let's make a deal. Let's
Well,
what's
which
behind
door do
door
you
number
want?
one? Yeah, what's behind door number one, Brent? Boom, and I hit the wall.
Pink unicorn.
Yeah, pink unicorn. There. Door number two and door number three. Take your pick. Oh, you won on door number one, and I literally won all right. I did a face plant right against and I remember that falling down. And yeah, my mom would be watching TV, and she didn't realize what big thud was, and and she was, everything going okay in there? I go, yeah, and like I was so embarrassed, I didn't want to say anything. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I just hit the wall, and then I did it again, and she's like, she come in, she's like, oh, and I was crying. and she couldn't figure out, well, what are you doing? And I was getting the door, and my hand must have missed, and she goes, yeah, but there is like a mark on the wall, and I'm,
But that makes sense. That actually makes sense that you wouldn't know anything different because
yeah,
that to you was normal. So you were probably thinking, well, this like what I'm seeing is reality. So you didn't think anything different until somebody told you, no, what you're seeing is you should be seeing better than this, right?
yeah,
Because your only measure of what it should be was what you were seeing at that moment, not what somebody else is telling you what you should see.
yeah. And that was the depth perception, and what I thought was there was the door, and I guess, and I was confused because I wanted to get out, and I was panicking because I was trying to get out because I wanted to get a glass of water, and I remember that. And my mom's like, well, is that all you wanted, was a glass of water? And yeah, and so she brought me a glass of water, and I said, no, I can get it myself. I just must have stumbled, and my mom kept an eye on that, I guess. She told me years later she kept an eye on that because I kept doing that, like repeating the same thing, rinse, repeat, do it again. And I still vaguely remember her on the phone, and she was quite concerned. She phoned like the doctor's office, and then she phoned and they referred me to specialists. And as time went on, I went in, and I mean, I still remember going to Vancouver. My mom took me. My mom didn't drive, so my mom had to take me on the bus all the way into Vancouver, and I had to go to an eye specialist on Broadway. Actually, I still remember this big tall building on Broadway. It wasn't far from VGH actually, and the building is still there even to this date. And it was a professional building, and going up to see an eye doctor, and he was the top specialist in Canada. Like my family doctor referred me to the top specialist in Canada who studies my eye condition. I mean, God rest his soul now. I mean, he's passed now, but he wanted the best specialist that he could find, his colleagues, and so they arranged for that. And he told my mom that it was a very delicate operation. It was a 50-50 chance that either I'm going to continue the same pathway that I was going with vision wise, or it was going to not fix my eye condition, but it was going to stabilize it enough where I was actually going to be able to see, but leave it with an eye condition. It was a 50-50 chance of out of a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning the worst, 1 meaning the best, or 5. Mine stayed at a 5, but with it was that it was going to give me my vision, but the condition won't either get worse or better. And it was my mom had to make that ultimate decision, obviously, and that was put into her decision making based on looking at what's best for myself. I kind of remember her saying, "What do you think, Brent?" And I was sitting in the office. I still remember the doctor, and I remember I was a child because I was 7 years old. I had just turned 8. It was just after my birthday, which is 2 months away, actually, as of yesterday. 2 months away, it'll be my birthday. And yesterday would have been my mom's birthday. She would have been 98 years old today, yesterday, Neil,
Wow,
and everybody
yeah.
listening. Yeah. So I think about her a lot. But I'll get into that later in the story here. But so getting back to that, I still remember that the doctor asked me, what do you think, Brent? What are you thinking in your mind? And I said, I just want to not walk into walls. Okay.
That's a pretty low ask, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I guess, and I remember crying at the time, and he says, it's okay. I mean, I didn't realize that they had already made a decision that was best on for me. And I guess he just wanted to see where I was at. So I went in, and all I remember is waking up. Like, I guess they put me under, and I remember waking up in the hospital, and they had this big bowl right around me. And I guess my mom was told that, yeah, when he wakes up, he's automatically going to, project, shall we say. So, and I did, like, I was very sick for a while. Like, it was, and it's apparently very common to go through it because your whole system it's getting thrown completely for like
it's doing a master reset.
Yeah, it's just going like through a dryer mode, right? It's going, and I remember is waking up, and I remember seeing a finger going across back and forth to me. Hi, and I'm like, and I'm looking, and I had tears, but I didn't cry. I remember they had tears, and doctors wiping something on my face, and he says, "How many can you see?" And I go, "Hi." He goes, "Hi." He goes, "How many? Can you see any fingers?" And he didn't hold up how many fingers yet. And I'm like, "I can, yeah, I can see." He goes, yeah. So anyway, as time went on, I would still be stumbling here and there because my balance was still off. They had to train how to kind of walk a little bit and keep my balance. And so I learned how to, on the tricycle, learn, as little children did, little tricycle, learn how to ride a bike. And I took a couple tumbles here and there, poof, down I went. But I got up and I was determined that I was going to ride the bike. I was determined. In my mind, I said, no, I'm going to do this. So my mom took the tires off and just two wheels, and I rode, and I was so happy because I was independent. I was like, yay, I can actually do this. For myself, I could ride a bike, and I wanted to be like the other children in the in the neighborhood. And as the children in my neighborhood were so supportive because they knew what I was going through. And I didn't get treated differently. I really didn't. I was included with all my pupils in there, except for when I was in school. Some of the children would pick on me because I'd be wearing glasses, and my glasses were so thick. And they'd say, "Oh, there's four eyes. There's four eyes." And
it's interesting though what you're saying about you're saying that your body has to kind of master reset, and you have to get used to walking and stuff. I mean, that actually makes perfect sense to me because if you think about it, like in my case, like if my legs don't work well at all, like I've had crutches predominantly my whole life, and now I'm basically in a wheelchair, but if my legs could be magically healed overnight, say, and I could suddenly, like, they were just completely healed, but if somebody had told me just, okay, they're healed, go walk, like, I don't think it would take some time, right? You couldn't just go up and you couldn't just say walk now, because I've never actually walked without crutches. So it would take some reprogramming of me and my body to say, okay, this is how you do it, right? Like if you've never seen, like in your case, if your eyes have never seen a certain way, or if my legs have never walked a certain way, like you could understand that your whole body needs to recalibrate itself and do a master reset and totally do a recalibration. And if you don't do that, like, if I tried to walk even with perfectly functioning legs, I would fall on my ass or fall on my face, like for the first dozens of times, right? Because your legs are, even though if they would be perfectly healed, there would still be that adjustment period of like, here's your perfectly functioning legs, but you need time to ramp up and get used to them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was exactly, Neil, like I totally agree with you on that. And it's so important for people to listen to lived experience, because everybody's situation is different than anybody else's. I mean, there might be some similarities, or there might be people that are the same, right? But that's what's interesting with life is finding so many people that have the same same disabilities, or they might be something a little bit different, and we learn from each other on different things. And that's what I learned when I was going through elementary school. Like some of the pupils, they were very supportive, very understanding. But they never treated me differently. I mean, I had a couple little punks, I called them now, but and they like, oh, hey, four eyes. But then one of my teachers said, you know what? I guess overheard it, and then the person was reprimanded for calling names, and kids always call names back and forth, and I got really upset because I just like, I don't want to be treated differently. I just wanted to be accepted for who I am. And one of my teachers, I still remember saying to me, isn't having 4 eyes better than having no eyes? And I went, right. And it really sunk in, like, of saying, like, you're able to see because you've got glasses that are actually helping you as a tool, for who you are, as an extension of who you are. And I thought, wow, like that, and it always stuck in my mind as an extension. I did have one teacher though that did say, and I felt so uncomfortable. I remember going to the vice principal's office, and then I went to the principal because the teacher said to me at one time, I was in grade 2. I was just going into, well, grade 3 and 4. I had the same teacher, which was pretty awesome. And she was so, like, wonderful. But anyway, grade 2, one of my teachers was actually had to take a leave of absence. It was a literally teacher who had taken over, and said to me one time, had overheard some kids picking on me, and said, Brent, what would it be like not to have a visual impairment? And I said, I don't know. Like, I'm just me. Yeah, but I mean, if they could have just cured it, I mean, you could just do everything, right? I said, they can't cure my eye condition. It's what it is. I just know me as me. She says, oh, well, if you really put your mind to it, you can do anything. I said, well, even though my mind and my vision are two separate things, I can only do what I can do. And I felt really upset, like, because it was like, I felt like I was being judged. I was being, like, singled out. And so they said, well, maybe we need to put you in another room so we can have a teacher's aide help you, because other pupils are feeling uncomfortable with you in the class, because now I'm having to take more time out of helping you rather than teaching. That's what my job is. And I remembered that. I was like, oh, so I went to the principal's office, and she got in trouble. She really got in trouble.
Well, that's good.
For talking that way. And and as I went through elementary, and then going through high school, I learned to accept who I am and stand up for what my beliefs are. I had some amazing teachers, Neil, and everyone listening. And
I did too. I did too, and that really helps a lot.
I actually had a teacher who taught me how to touch type, and put a book over my hand so I couldn't see the keyboards, and actually taught me to type, because I was able to type faster than I was able to write, because of hand and eye coordination. My hand and eye coordination just were not fast enough because of concentration wise of reading and writing, looking at, they used to have the overhead projectors. Remember those things? Well, I was not able to see them. I was not able to see the small print on the overhead projectors. So they used to blow up the print for me to make it larger, so I could read that rather than looking at the overhead, so I could keep up with the class. Well, I had a teacher's aide who actually used to help me from the CNIB. Used to come in and actually teach me how to touch type, so I could actually type and listen to audio, but then listen to it and like kind of headset, but then type what the actual what the instructor or what the teacher is actually saying. So I was actually ahead of the class. Like I was way ahead, and they realized, wait a minute, this is Brent's learning curve. This is what works good for him. So after that, I said to my mom at the time, I said, I want to go to college. I want to, I want to do something different. No. Like she said, no, you won't be able to do that, because I was talking to one of the teachers in your school, and they said, oh, Brent won't academically be able to succeed. I would really, my self-esteem went right down.
And we should pause here, because I think there's going to be some people that are listening that are maybe younger or just don't know. Like, let's take a little bit of a pause here and just stop to consider, because you and I are roughly the same age. Like I'm 55 and you're 50 something, right?
53.
Yeah. So we're very close in age. And at the time I was born and the time you were born, it was commonly accepted, even in the medical community. So you had very, very, very smart doctors, like people will say, like, even their shit was smart,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
like people that were extremely smart, and yet there was this prevailing attitude that anybody that was born with a disability, no matter what it was doomed to fail. Like it was just like this self-fulfilling prophecy that if your son or daughter had a physical or mental disability, like or a cognitive disability, they were just doomed to fail. Or I've said this before a few times on the podcast that a lot of doctors would equate a physical disability like your blindness or my cerebral palsy as a cognitive deficit as well, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, actually the term cerebral palsy, if you translate it into another English term rather than cerebral palsy, if you translate it, it actually means brain numb. that's what cerebral palsy translates to. So that kind of gives you the idea that this is a term that has been passed on and passed along as like, if you have cerebral palsy, your brain is numb, so therefore you're going to be like cognitively impaired and different, right? And that's just not the case. But exactly. that is what the prevailing medical opinion was, and that got passed down to schools and teachers, and the schools and teachers believed the prevailing medical opinion. Anybody with blindness or anybody with cerebral palsy also has a cognitive defect or not a defect, but a deficit, I should say, a cognitive deficit. And that is just blatantly not true, right? And I know when I was young and starting out in elementary school, like when I transferred from GF Strong rehab in Vancouver and transferred over to grade, I think it was grade 2 actually. I transferred to grade 2, yeah, and all the teachers they just didn't know what to expect. And when they found out that I was actually smart and I actually knew what I was doing, they were like, wow, this is going to be great. Like I can actually ask Neil a question and he's going to know the answer. Like, wow,
Yeah.
But I just wanted to stress that point because maybe there's gonna be a few people that are listening that are not going to know that, or not. Yeah, we have to kind of rewind the clock back, 50 to 55 years and remember what the state of the world was back then. Mm-hmm. You had people like us with physical disabilities that were locked away in hospitals,
yes,
and not to see the light of day kind of thing, because we were seen as less than that didn't deserve to be out and about. And I remember, like, as a kid, like going, and I know this is your show, but I just wanted to make this point.
Oh, okay.
That I would be out in the grocery store or in the mall or whatever, and I wouldn't see anybody like myself, like with crutches or whatever, or anybody. And I'm like, where are all the crutches? Where are all the wheelchairs? I didn't see it. When I would go out, I was like, I'm the only one. Like I would literally, and I'd be like, where is everybody? And again, that's because you have to reset the whole worldview at that time. Is everybody that had disabilities, they were all locked away, all like hidden away in their closets or in their homes. It's like, well, we better not bring Brent out. We better not bring Neil out, because it's going to be a shock to everybody's system to see somebody with crutches or in a wheelchair or have a blindness or a sight impair thing. We can't have that. And exactly. but that was the worldview back then, back 55 years ago. That was what it was like, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, back then, yeah, exactly. Just tuck them away, right? Yeah. And I remember a specialist. I went to a meeting with my mom at the time, and And the specialist said, and I still, it always stuck in my mind. I mean, I was just a little kid, but as they always say, when you're a little kid, there's certain things that you'll pick up on. You always remember certain little things. There's things that I don't always remember everything when I was a toddler, but there was one thing that stood out is after I had my operation, um, I do remember one thing that stood out was a specialist said to my mom, Brent will be able to function in today's society. And my mom said, what do you mean? He's able to function in today's society. So he won't need to be hospitalized. And it always stuck in. And I years later I asked my mom, what did that mean? And exactly what you just said, Neil. Like and now they were gonna tuck me away if I wasn't able to function in today's society.
Right.
But I remember GF Strong. I do remember that. I remember going there because they had to teach me how to walk properly. Like my balance was way off. Like like they held me back when I was going through kindergarten. They got me to repeat kindergarten because I just wasn't able. I wasn't functioning to the level that, of course, and that was then. Well, I didn't have my operation. So they felt that I wasn't ready to go into grade 1. And then I got into grade 1. Well, then I had a really bad allergy season. Then I had a lot of colds. I kept getting colds and colds. And it was my system that was backlashing after I had my operation. I was sicker than sick and getting homework brought home. So I had to repeat grade 1. So I was behind with all my other pupils in classes. And I was upset because I wanted to be there. I wish that I could have been pushed faster forward. No.
You know, another really funny thing that's I'll do really quick is you remember the cognitive tests that remember the bubble sheets? I think it was at the beginning of with all these bubble sheets, and you would fill them out like with a pen or a pencil, and they were always like, they were very serious. Like the teachers took them very, very seriously, right?
Oh yes.
And like, I mean, it would make or break your year as to like where you slotted in, right? And I remember taking these tests, and like you're talking about your vision. Well, I kind of have the same, like not the same vision, but I have a vision thing where it's because of my cerebral palsy as well, where I have one eye that kind of drifts off a little bit, like, and so I don't have good depth perception, and I also have difficulty sometimes seeing diagonals and things like that. And so anyway, and it was worse when I was younger. It's gotten better because you adjust to your own disability, or but when I was younger, I would see things in reverse a lot too. I couldn't see diagonals, and I would see things in reverse a lot. And so when I was doing the bubble sheets, almost like 9 times out of 10, I would miss the first bubble. So I would miss the number 1, and I would go to number 2 for number 1. And so everything would be 1 off, right? Yeah. And so then the teachers would look at these bubble sheets and go, wow, this guy's an idiot. Or they would phone up my mom and say, your son's an absolute idiot. He's got every question completely wrong. And then my mom would go like, I'm pretty sure my son's not an idiot. And she actually looked at the sheet and say, well, you see how here he's missed, if you go down the sheet, on every single column he's missed the first number on every single one. And she said, go back and recalibrate everything to 1, and then mark it, and then see what it is. And I mean, I don't know, they did it, and then they realized, oh wow, that he actually got almost everything correct, because they moved all the answers back 1 when they realized I was 1 off. And so, but that's what I mean, like a very simple little thing where I was 1 off because of a sight and impairment type of thing, where I was not good at seeing diagonals. And just because of that one stupid thing, they, you know, these teachers could look at these tests and go, wow, your son's an idiot. You know, just if they just looked at it on face value, it's like, yeah, I'm an idiot. But if you really look at it deeper and realize I was one off because my eye didn't focus properly, and if you recalibrate everything to the proper one, you know, then I was fine.
Well, that's what happened to me, where it would kind of blend in, where the second line would blend in with the first one, like, because I had the coordination of vision wise, even after I had my operation, like, and I still have that, where like it's such small print, and it's like if there's two lines of bubbles, like I'll see it now, like, I mean, but if I really focus on it, I can see well. But when I was a child, like, it was a lot worse. But as the mind programs and says, makes
it takes a while, right? It takes a while
but it makes your vision think that it's actually you're okay, you know. And I learned that going forward in time, where your mind tries to compensate for the visual impairment. And I learned that going through high schools and then through college. So when I said to some teachers, no, like, I want to go to college, and so I did. Like, I pushed it, and and then so we went through a rehabilitation counselor who had said, like, it was vocational. It was a vocational rehabilitation VRS, vocational
I went through there.
VRS.
They paid for my college and university as well.
Me too. Yeah,
fully paid.
Yeah, me too.
With a food budget allowance and an entertainment allowance. I got
that too.
It was great. Like, I had a movie allowance, a food budget, everything. I was like, yes, this is great. I got that too. I love those guys there. They were great to me.
They gave me a transportation allowance too.
Oh yeah, everything.
And I got to check. I got to check every week. They actually distributed out. I'm going, wow.
No, VRS was great. I mean, my parents could have definitely not afforded it all. They did not have the budget to send me to college or send me to university. So it was definitely, if VRS wasn't a thing, I wouldn't have gone to college. I wouldn't have gone to university. It was all because of VRS. So
they were.
God bless VRS and places like that for existing at that time, because they were absolutely wonderful. Like, really wonderful.
They saved me a lot of emotional stress and anxiety, because my mom, like, she says there's no way. It's a single mother bringing me up and my brother up. Like, she couldn't do it. And so I was referred to them from the CNIB to go over to talk to VRS. And what was ironic is my CNIB counselor at the CNIB actually moved over to VRS. He was actually working there. So cool. he actually told me that I'm actually going to be, he says, I got a new job, Brent. So I'm going to be working for VRS. I go, what is that? And so he told me, and he said, well, somebody's going to be taking my position at CNIB. Well, me and the other person didn't get along too well at the CNIB. And so I realized.
Do you happen to remember Rose Magnuson there? Remember Rose Magnuson at VRS?
I do.
She was my main. She was my main caseworker, and I loved her. I really did. Like, she was very kind of by the book strict.
I remember hearing her name.
She was very kind of by the book strict, but I loved her. She was great.
There was another guy that was there. His name was Jeff. I just can't recall his last name, but he was wonderful. And so I'd gone through like my course, and then there was another course that when I was in the college, they had told me I had gone through. It was an educational course, learning about myself, learning about my strengths, my weaknesses. Yes, everybody. You got to focus on. The course taught me about my weaknesses too. You know how hard it is to focus on your weaknesses?
It's important, though. It's important to know what you can't do.
But the course, they force the person to focus on their weaknesses and your strengths. And what I learned was you can turn a negative into a positive with the course. And
Yeah.
so we had to demonstrate that. We had to prove that, and with that, and so it taught me a lot, and it taught me a lot about who I was, who I am, and who I want to be back then. So I decided that I wanted to take another course. Well, while I was taking that course, VRS had reached out to me and said, okay, so you're taking this course. This is great. We also want to refer you to a special doctor who wants to do an educational assessment on you. Oh, I said, okay. And so because the college felt also, my instructor felt also was in communication with VRS and felt that that I had a great aptitude of trying to help people moving forward, doing something a little bit different to helping people, maybe in a different setting, maybe as a counselor or maybe as a talk show host
Podcast host.
you know what I mean? Or yeah, but it was like so many avenues, like because I'm a people person, and at that time I didn't know. Like I said, I don't know. And so they put me through an educational assessment test through through a doctor, and it was all paid for, same as VRS. Like same thing. They paid for my transportation. They paid for my food budget, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Like these tests, it was very stressful for me emotionally. Because I had to really focus on. They gave me blocks. They gave me blocks, and I had to kind of put together a puzzle, and got me to read passages at a university level versus a kindergarten level versus elementary versus high school, and they got me to read different passages of where am I, and for some reason I was able to read better at a high school level passage than I was at a university, and then the vice versa. I was able to read better, and like so they were kind of corresponding. Like where is Brent at here? And what it was the problem solving, and what it was is that they felt that
train A leaves the
well
station at 3 o'clock, going
yeah
west. Train B.
yeah
I used to love those word
yeah,
problems. It's like
and that's what
no.
and then well that's what they got me to do is I try to connect up the like an itinerary, kind of like how this would go as a puzzle, and I was having stumbling blocks on it, trying to figure this stuff out. And the doctor said, you know, Brent, it's really not hard, but for some reason he broke down the problem solving stuff. So he worked with me, and what it was is that the brains wasn't connecting on problem solving on different areas, and just kind of like adapting to like newer information versus older information, and kind of doing as a timeline. And as I kind of focused on that, it really helped me a lot. And what it came down to was a conclusion of that, well, Brent's got a learning disability. Like what? And it said it's been there all along on top of your vision wise, but it's like because a part of my disability with vision wise, it's like the brain tells the vision is based on the condition. It's like interconnected. And he says it was never diagnosed that way. You're perfectly fine. It's just another. I said, oh, you know, and like we joked around. I actually was really upset when it was actually put in front of me, right? So I thought, great, like what else? Like what else is there going to be now? Like, you know, and he says, there's facts and there's fiction. The fact is that that's just who you are. And the doctor says, I like who you are. He said, because you like who you are. You accept who you are, right? And nobody treats you differently. You're just you. And so I had to go back to the college and I had to tell them that information. And, you know, my instructor said, yay, you turned a negative, Brent, into a positive. That's who you are. And the class got to hear about that. I had to give a bibliography of who I am. And so the class got to grade it. And they all came by and they all hugged me. They like, wow, you know, that's quite an accomplishment of what you went through with that. And I said, yeah. And so I had to go and I saw my family doctor, you know, after I'd done with college. And he says, I always knew that, Brent. But he says, I got the report from my other colleague who, and I'm like, what? Oh yeah, no, I got the report. You didn't know that, did you? And I go, no, I got the report. He says, nothing's changed. That's just life, right? I mean, as we get older, Brent, we get more ailments, we get more disabilities as we go on. He says, and that's when he says, I really think at this time, I really think that you need to apply for disability. And I go, well, and I fought him. I fought my doctor, and I said, no. He goes, no. Why? The government's going to protect the disabled in British Columbia. That's what the role is. And
that's what they're supposed to do.
And I said, then why? Why is one of my neighbors not able to get was in a mobility scooter at the time. It was a state of the art at the time. Like it was, of course, older scooters back then, but it was pretty cool. Was in a hockey accident and had severed his spine from head all the way down. And so, yeah, it was sad. And so I got to understand that from one of my pupils in my neighborhood there. And I said, well, he says, well, I guess we're the same, Brent. You've got your disability. I've got mine. I have to cope with a new reality. And so I said that to my doctor. He goes, right. You see, what happens here is that things can happen to people in life, right? I mean, you're born with the way you are. I know what you're capable of, Brent. I know what you're not capable of. I am your doctor. I've known you since you were an infant, little toddler. You don't remember that, but you were just a little baby. And I've known you all along. And then I said, well, doc, like this is, they just diagnosed me now saying I have a learning disability. He goes, right. So what? He says, the doc's got problems too. And I didn't realize that. Like, I mean, no, you're my doctor. He goes, hey, well, he retired because he actually had a drinking problem. Like he was trying to tell me that, yeah, doc's got problems, but he actually had retired later on. I didn't realize that. But he actually had epilepsy.
Okay.
Like, and I didn't know that. Like my doctor had epilepsy. And he used to have epileptic seizures. And I thought, oh my, the nurse had told me, or the receptionist, but she was a nurse too. She told me that. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. So you never know, right? The person may look perfectly fine, but really, like there's a lot of invisible disabilities. So I learned a lot of lived experience of talking to people, Neil, and even my family doctor, he fought for me to get my disability. And as time went on, like, so I was, getting back to college and stuff, I was very successful in what I accomplished. There was a course that I did take that I wasn't successful in, but I got a lot of knowledge out of it. Is because of comprehension. I wasn't able, and it was so interesting. I wish I could have got through it. They tried to work with me on it, and I just couldn't seem to keep up. Because they wanted me to do a lot of they call it group meetings, group gatherings at the college. Right. And I had to commute all the way from Vancouver all the way to Langley, way out in between Langley and Overgrove. I had to make the bus connections, and if I didn't make it, I'd be stranded. Yeah. So I couldn't put the time into it. They gave me computer software to take home with me, so I put on my computer. Lotus 123, remember that? Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
I got to actually take it home with me. And I had permission by the college to do that. I wasn't supposed to, but they gave me permission where I logged in. I was actually able to actually do the work at home, but have access into their mainframe. So it was kind of cool. Like, so I had to really be careful with that information because there was a lot of stuff we were working on.
One of my favorite movies growing up is War Games. Remember that movie with Matthew Broderick?
But I took this one. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I took the course in customs and transportation. It was a intermodal stuff, and so that was when I talked about on the podcast before about modals of how the transportation structure goes. I almost passed it. Like I was so close. So I learned all the modes of transportation, and so I find it very intriguing when the industry talks about supply chain stuff. Because I could have had a job working at Canada Customs in the port. Like that would have been cool. Within that, that's what the job was like, or at the customs border, like as an agent. I could have been working there. Like that was what I
secret agent man.
What are you bringing across here? Show me the goods, bud. Show me the goods. Yeah.
I
You
didn't
know,
know if you wanted to switch gears a little bit, Brent, and talk about your mom for a little bit, or
yeah,
like I don't know how much time
yeah.
we
No,
have.
no.
We're getting a bit close to the hour, so I didn't know if you wanted to.
Oh, we can wing it, as I
Okay,
always do. I always wing things, and yeah,
sure.
I will focus on that. Basically, just to kind of conclude about the college, so people are kind of listening on that one part. Where
Mhm.
so I got through it. I wasn't successful in the program, but I learned a lot, which is awesome. Self-esteem wise, it knocked me down a couple pegs at the time because I felt so sad that, and then I was told, sorry, Brent, but you don't pass. Like, you're maybe explore other areas. And so I thought, oh, great. Well, what do I do? And so I went back to VRS at the time. And they're the ones who actually funded it for me.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you can imagine what they must have been thinking. Like, great. Now what?
Mhm. Mhm.
So they actually worked with me where I took a course in hotel management. I actually got through it really well. I did really well, but they weren't willing to fund the whole program for me
Mhm.
because it was a private institution and they don't do private institutions. So, and I didn't know
Mhm.
that. If it's a public college, public university, no problem. But if it's a private one, it was on me to deal with it.
Mhm.
They actually did do some of the funding for me, which I was so grateful to them on it. So they
Mhm.
took some of the credits from the other college and they said some of the funding, um, which the college gave me back some of the funding that I did for my program, which I don't know how they did, but they kind of put that and the other together, and I got through it. I did a career move. I moved up to Kamloops, up to the Okanagan, as a career move. My mom was really upset with me at the time for doing that because she says, "Well, when am I going to see you again? If you're moving up there, you're never going to come down to see me." I said, "Of course I'm going to come down to see you because you're my mom, right?" I did a career move. I started working in a restaurant, working in a, and this is kind of leads up to my mom.
Okay.
So
Good
uh,
segue
yeah, good segue. Exactly. I kind of
then.
blended. Oh, yeah, it's funny how I just blend that right in there, right?
I should have
Uh,
trusted you from the beginning there, Brent. Sorry.
oh, yeah, yeah. So I moved up, and then her and I had to catch some cat fights. Really, like it was a point where I said, "Well, maybe I should just pack my bags and move right now and just be done with it, right?" And she just don't say that. And I said, "No, I mean, like and I look back and I guess there's some choice of words I said and I shouldn't have said to her, and I apologized, as she came up to see me, and her and I went had lunch and dinner, and yeah, like it was great. She stayed with me for like a week, and yeah, like it was great. And I apologized to her. I said, "Yeah, I know I said words to you, and I said I didn't mean to." She goes, "No, I mean it was just emotion wise, because I was scared. Like, I mean, always been there, and then all of a sudden I had to move up to the Okanagan, but it was a career opportunity, and I said I can't throw it away."
Mhm.
So when I moved, I worked in a restaurant. That was the agreement. That until the position became available for me in the hotel. So
Mhm.
I phoned up this one restaurant, and they said, "Well, come up for an interview." I go, I I'm in the Lower Mainland. I'm in Langley, like and I can't just come up there. I mean, Greyhound. I mean, the tickets are expensive. I mean, a
Mhm.
one-way ticket. And Greyhound. That's the problem with Greyhound. Why they didn't survive is they overpriced themselves,
Mhm.
and the tickets. For me, if I could take somebody else with me as an attendant, the attendant would travel for free. So I didn't have anybody to take with me. I said, "My mom, well, you want to come with me?" And then, her and I could split the cost. Well, how do I get back? I can't, I've got responsibilities, Brent. I've got work to do. And so I couldn't take her with me. So I
Mhm.
did a one-way ticket.
Mhm.
And I said, trying to figure out how to do this to get the money. And I had just finished college. So I didn't have, and I wasn't on disability. I hadn't got my disability at the time. So like
Mhm.
I didn't have much money. I had a job that I was working at, and I had just quit my job because I was going to be moving, right? So I had a little bit from my paycheck left, and I had to give my mom money for rent, and my mom charged me 30% of my income for rent.
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, no, I need to give you more." She goes, "No, it's only fair. 30% of your income goes to your rent, Brent. That's how it works." And that's where that 30% thing that I get. That's why I've been advocating for so many years
Yeah.
about that rent. stuff, and it just drives me batty about the
It's
government.
too bad that it didn't stay
Oh,
true, right?
yeah, I know, and it's all about policy. Everybody, all these programs is all about policy choices. It's all about choices, right?
Mhm.
I'll get to that part after.
And you've made the wrong choice.
Door number one, Brent.
Try again.
Try door number two. No, door number three. Ding, ding, ding. No.
They're all pink unicorns. Sorry.
Poof, poof. So I made the career move. I got this job at this restaurant, Moxie's Bar and Grill.
I remember.
It was in Kamloops actually at the time, and I phoned up and he goes, "Yeah, like come on up. We'll talk, right?" And I said, "Well, no problem." He goes, "What?" And of course that was bad on me. I said, "Well, no problem." At that learning lesson, you don't say to a potential new employer, "There's a little problem." Like, boom, red flag. Oh God, the guy's got a problem already. He goes, well, talk to me. Like, what's going on? I said, I'm in here. Like, how do I get there? I mean, he goes, you take a bus. Like, he's probably thinking, like, duh, Brent. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I just gave my 2 weeks notice in. I just finished I got 3 more days on my work, and then that's it. Okay. I'll tell you what. I'm going to talk to one of my other fellow colleagues in one of the other stores and make arrangements. I want you to go down. It was in New Westminster at the time. They had a Moxie's there in New Westminster. And I'm like, where is that? Like, I hadn't been there before. And so he told me where it was. I went there and he says, my colleague, he's going to be expecting you. You just show up there and he's going to give you some funds. What? Funds for what? And he'll pay me back at store level, but he's going to give you funds to pay for your Greyhound ticket to get you up here.
Okay.
So pack your bags. You're going to be going. How much is a Greyhound ticket? I said, I think it's like $70 something. Okay, well, I'm going to give you $150, and I'll get you settled, get you going, buy yourself some lunch or dinners or whatever you got to do. Because when you get here, you're probably going to be hungry. Oh my God, back then that was a lot of money. So $150 he paid
it's
for it.
It's still a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. So I got there. I got myself settled in. A friend of a friend. I stayed there temporary until I got my feet off the ground. That was interesting. I had a tiny little room where I had access to a kitchen. And so cutting up stuff. These other people that I was with, they were able to cut stuff up for me because my hand coordination, I can't do that. Like, it's part of my disability still, but that's okay. I work with it the best way I can. The situation. So anyway, I got the job. It was a full-time job, dishwashing job, marketing Moxie's. Now that was the agreement the employer had with me, was that so you start working here, and as soon as the hotel calls you, like, yeah, you just, if it happens there, there's no notice wherever, you just go. I'm like, oh wow, like really cool employer. And I mean, Moxie's like, that's not where I wanted to be. Like, I had been there, done that. I'd done that for many years, doing that kind of work. And I mean, I enjoyed it. The interaction of like other staff. It was great. They were very accommodating to me. I got in there one morning. It was like tons of dishes everywhere. Oh my God. Somebody didn't show up the night before. I got in. Guess who had to do it? We want you to peel all these potatoes. I was peeling, and they got so frustrated with me. Like, Brent, today people in Ethiopia would be starving. Like, that's when the cook said to me, and I, like, a little tear went down. I thought, like, I can only go so fast. Like, I can't, like, I'm trying to peel. I couldn't seem to do things fast. And then I got a phone call, like, but I didn't have a phone at the time. I had a pager. Remember those? Everybody listening here? Yeah, those little pagers. I had this one where I had my own number, and it would go, like, it would be buzzing. And I felt, but it was neat about, because back then we had pay phones. That's right, everybody, pay phones. So my pager went off, and of course you're not supposed to look at it when you're working, but it was on buzzing mode. I'm thinking, why does it keep buzzing? But what it was giving me an alert telling me that there was a phone number on there, and I had a service on there where it was kind of neat. I wish they had it today, and maybe there is. I'm gonna look into it. But it was a central number where it would direct your number over to your pager, or if you had a cell phone, or if you had a home phone, it would direct you over to wherever you wanted it to go. Well, mine was going to my pager. I could have had it if I had a home phone at the time, which I didn't. Not where I was staying, yes, there was, which then I did direct to there. But anyway, I had to my pager. I used a phone inside the business. And so I had phoned my mom at first to let her know that I had arrived safely. And of course, I shouldn't have done that because the employer says, "Oh, you need to phone to get an important call." I go, "Yeah." And so I used that call long distance.
Oh,
I used their number. Hi, Mom.
whoops.
Oh, I said, "I just want to let you know I arrived here safely in my first shift. I'm on here." "Oh, great, Brent. I'm so happy for you." I said, "I'll come down in a couple of weeks, come down and visit you once I get things going. I get enough money going, my first paycheck." So I get this phone call. So it was buzzing again, reminding me like, "Hey, you got a message." And I'm thinking, "Oh, what does this number keep doing?" So I looked at it, I dialed the number, and it was a hotel in Kamloops. And they called me. They said, "We have a position open for you now, Brent. And could you start in like 2 weeks?" 2 weeks. So I gave my 2 weeks notice in. Well, I didn't think about it at the time that I had just promised my mom that I'd be coming down in 2 weeks. So you can imagine, I had to then tell my mom I'm going to be coming down in 2 weeks. Well, I phoned her. I got home. I was so excited, but the employer was excited for me, but sad, and said, "Okay, like, okay, fine, like, finish up your 2 weeks." I went to the employer, and I had a kind of a not like a pre-interview, sitting down, and like, "Yeah, so your starting date is in 2 weeks. Did you give your notice in?" "Yes," because they knew I was going to be giving my notice in. So I had given my notice in, and they said, "Good, right on." I said, "I'm so excited." I said, "Thank you so much." And my friend at the time, he had moved up a couple months later to work at an ABC restaurant in Kamloops. And I said, "Well, good, he's got a job there, and this is going to be awesome. I'm going to work at a hotel across the road from him, which is now torn down. The hotel's now gone, and there's a Dollarama there now, and there's like a Original Joe's that's there. There's a whole bunch of stuff there, yeah. Like, and so I still visualize every time I go up there, which I haven't been there in years. I still picture a hotel there. I went in, so I had done some training. They asked me to come and do some pre-training, get used to the staff there, and my job would have been working at the front desk, Neil, and everybody listening. Front desk agent. You can picture that as a front desk agent. "Hi, you're here to check in, and guest services." But they wanted me to do some catering work in the meantime until that position did come available. Now I had, like, so fast forward, I had given my 2 weeks notice, and so now I'm now ready to come into work. So they said, "Okay, we need to do some catering." So I got in doing some catering, some buffets, and that was interesting. Like, I got some good tips. Some very well-to-do individuals that came up, business leaders, government leaders. Oh yeah, Jimmy Pattison showed up there. Oh yeah, like oh yeah, like there was lots of celebrities, and I didn't really pay attention because I didn't really interact with a lot of people. I just set up tables and put cloths on their wine glasses, cutlery, and take the tables down. And yeah, I had to do that in a hurry for the next event. And I thought, okay, when am I going to be starting my new position? Okay, so anyway, I got home. I still remember going to Moxie's and went and had dinner. I go, "Oh, hey, stranger, how's the new job?" And I go, "I haven't started yet. Waiting for me to start the job, and I'm doing some buffet and some catering." "Oh, okay, catering. Oh, that's cool. Cool." I had already given my notice in. Well, then I got a phone call. I had gone for dinner at Moxie's. My pager's going off, and I get a phone call saying, "Brent, are you still in the area? Can you come up to the hotel? We need to speak with you." There was a manager. And I came up, and I was given the very dreadful news that nobody ever wants to hear. I was given the news that, unfortunately, a senior staff member who had gone on maternity leave wasn't going to be coming back, but had changed. She had changed her mind, and she wanted her job back. So my job was no longer. I said, "What does that mean?" "Well, your job is no longer needed, but thank you anyway. If you wanted to continue doing casual part-time catering, we could offer you that, but nothing stable." I go, "I moved up here to live. That's not why I moved here. Like, I just gave my notice into my job, and 2 weeks ago, or just over 2 weeks, and well, you can maybe go back and see if you can get your job back. I went back and they said, sorry, it doesn't work that way, Brent. We've already filled your position full time. We don't have a position here for you.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can imagine, like,
Yeah.
so my friend moved up and I got a job at ABC. Then unfortunately, they dismissed everybody out of there. They changed ownership and everybody lost their jobs out of there. So him and I lost our jobs. So now I got nothing. And then he would be moping around looking for work. I'd be looking.
So the moral of the story is
The moral of the story.
don't trust anybody that says there's a job waiting for you.
Exactly. Because it was complete disaster. Like it was, and I told my mom, and she threw it at me saying, I told you, I had a gut instinct that you shouldn't have moved up. But I look back at time and I say it was a learning curve. It was a good experience for me. Someone said, well, would you ever consider doing that as an occupation again? And the hotel felt bad for me. Really, really bad. They tried to do whatever they could do. I mean, I still worked at doing some catering stuff. I got the job at ABC. I still worked doing some of the catering stuff there, but I knew that the time was going to be up. And eventually, then the building got sold anyway, and then they tore it down. And it was empty lot for years. So I moved back down to the coast, and I just tried to find my pathway going forward. But getting to about my mom is, after I had moved, like I came back and my mom was, she, her and I, we got along really well. She was my best friend. She was really my best friend. My mom, I called her my mom because that's the only person that I knew. I mean, I knew my mother because like I said earlier in the podcast, she used to phone and then she'd show up, and I didn't realize she was my mother at the time, my biological mother. But I saw a little bit different things happening with my mom after I moved back, and she was having some difficulty with a few things, and she would be kind of complaining to me or visualizing, saying that we had a bad windstorm the one year, and she'd say, "Well, Brent, the branches are moving, but there's hands out there, like they look like there's arms." And I said, "Arms? Like, well, can you go out in the yard and check it out and inspect it and let me know everything's okay?" I go, "Yeah, sure." So I went out. There's tree limbs had fallen off and broken off because of the windstorm, and leaves everywhere. And I, with a flashlight, looking around, and nothing out there. I'm thinking, my God, what is my mom talking about? Like, so I come in and I said, "Nothing out there, Mom." She goes, "No, I hear noises out there." And I said, "Mom, there's nothing out there. It's the wind. It's throwing branches against probably against the house. It's probably what you're seeing." And she looked out there. She goes, "No, I saw something." She looked out the window. She said, I saw something out there. I saw somebody move." But the thing is, it was her mind. Her mind was playing tricks, and I didn't understand, like, what the heck is going on here. And it kind of stabilized for a while. And when I say a while, she plateaued for a while there, like nothing happened. I'm like, okay, I was isolated. It happened again. And then my mom would say, "Can you rub my feet?" My feet, and I'm like, "What?" My legs. It was like, what is going on? And like, it was going through her. Something was going on. Wow. And she said, "Oh, it felt like something was tickling her," and like her mind was playing tricks with her. And I was like, so I went and I made a phone call to see my doctor. Like, I didn't know who to talk to. I'm like, okay, the receptionist. "Hi, I can mimic. Hi, Brent. How are you?" I'm like, "Fine. I'm really worried about my mom." "Oh, is your mom okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I think she's hallucinating. I don't know what's going on here. Like, I'm kind of freaked out." "Okay. I can get her to come in for an appointment." So she got her in there and the testing, and they determined that it was an onset of Alzheimer's. And I thought, oh, okay. I didn't know a lot about that. And then she developed Parkinson's.
Yeah, that's tough.
So she was a double whammy for her. And my mom, of course, she was still really with it. Like, she was totally with it. And so she told me I had gone to work, and I got back, and I had got a phone call at my work saying, "Your mom's on the phone." I'm like, my mom's on the phone. Okay, like, so I was busy busy dealing with a customer. I was actually waitering at the time. So my section, I had to get somebody to take over in my section for waitering. Well, because they said my manager said it was a very important phone call. Like, you need to take this now. Like, and my mom said, yeah, like I just got diagnosed, and I literally dropped the phone. Like, I didn't know, like, what. And that was just the first part of the stage, right? My mom was out in the yard chopping wood, and her hand slipped too, and she sliced right down to her knee, like right down her leg.
Oh wow!
With an axe. Yeah, she was out there chopping, and somebody like there was a tree. One of our neighbors had chopped down a tree, but it was kind of like it was nice and smooth, like the thing. But she was using some other piece there, and she was chopping, and somehow her hand slipped, and that's when she realized like there was something going on. And so I got another phone call another day telling me, Brent, there's emergency, a phone call. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, what now? But that time it was coming from my neighbor. Like, what? My neighbor said my mom was rushed to the hospital. And that's when they found out that she was Parkinson's. Like, it was like another onset, like, oh my gosh, like it was like a bombshell for me. So I had to do treatment with a nurse that would come in and help my mom, doing home care at her own home. I actually had to put salving stuff on her legs. I was grossed out, like it really freaked me, like, but I had to learn to deal with that. Like, my mom was there and she was with it. She says, you're supposed to just gently put this cream on. And as the time went on, everybody, like, I saw basic deterioration of my mom. I needed to move. Like, I knew it was time that I had to actually move. But I knew financially my mom couldn't make it on her own. She's a single mother bringing up my brother and myself. And she struggled. She struggled because we're in poverty, right? Even though my mom was working a bunch of jobs, she would take her shirt off. She would take, I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like, she would literally she would make homemade cookies and give it to her neighbors because that was the kind of person she would do, or she would make stuff and she would give it, back and forth and like to people. We were on well water. So learning to conserve water, learning to conserve food. Leftovers was always a thing. Like, yeah, like always a thing. There was times where I went to bed hungry because my mom, she couldn't afford to go and buy certain things. So, and there was things that she would make, unfortunately. I mean, God rest your soul, Mom, but there were certain things that I couldn't eat.
Maybe she's learning how to cook properly in heaven now.
But now she was a great cook. So like, but like really good cook, but she would give me things that I just couldn't eat. Like oxtail.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I could not, I would gag. Like, it was fatty. It was all fatty and I would gag and of course the dog, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
The dog loves it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that you're not leaving the table until you finish every single bit on your plate. Well, the dog would come by. No, she'd call the dog in the other room. But you know what I mean? Like, there was things that I just couldn't do it. So if you don't want to eat it, then you're going to your room.
You know, I'll just interject again a little funny little story. Is my sister. She's about a year and 3 months older than me. And she always used to have a really hard time with stew meat. Like, I mean, you and I grew up at the same time. So like, parents in my generation, my parents' generation, they conserved as much as possible, right? So it's like, there was no splurging for anything. So it was like, you would always really conserve and buy as cheap as you can. So my mom would do a lot of stews because it was like cheap meat, right?
Oh yeah.
But and my sister, it's like she would always struggle, like eating this stew meat. Like she would literally take hours to chew this meat.
That's
And
how
then my parents would say, like, you're not leaving the table until you're finished, right? Well, she would just stay up there at the table for like 2 hours, like chewing on this meat. It was just hilarious, right?
That's how I was. And then it was dumplings, and then I would try and get some mashed potatoes, and then I'd try and figure, okay, if I could try to eat this and swallow it whole, and then, you know, and I'd be picking, like, I have little peas, like peas there, and I'd be picking away at it. Oh, I don't like this pea, or, you know what I mean, or, you know, broccoli, or, you know, like different carrots. And, oh my God, carrots, yum, yum. So I just like, okay, I'll fill myself up on vegetables, Brent. That's what you'll do. Fill yourself up. My mom goes, no, you're not leaving till you eat that. And there was a lot of nights where I, you know, I'd go to bed into my room without having dinner. Of course, before I did, I'd grab some cheese and crackers, managed to get some peanut butter, put some on there, take off there. And I mean, my mom understood. Like, as I got a little older, she said, yeah, she understood that. She says, I shouldn't have given you things that, you know, that you couldn't eat. But, you know, but she explained to me that, you know, it's because growing up, she grew up that way too. And like with her mother, like it was like way back in during the Depression, deep Depression. And her and I, like, you know, growing up with her, she struggled. So yeah, like I totally understand. Like she had bought stew meat, and she would just do the best she could and provide for my brother and I the best way she could. And like popsicles, like we'd have fruit popsicles. Well, she would get, you know, juice, and she would put it into like frozen little sticks, and then you'd have it and pull it out.
My mom would do that too.
Yeah, and that was great. Like I never took anything for granted. If I wanted something, I had to go and earn it. Like if I wanted to go to a movie, wow, that would be a treat. You know, wow. If I wanted that, I'd have to go and mow the lawn.
My mom would always sneak in her own snacks. So you're like totally not supposed to do that, right? But,
yeah,
but she'd always have this big coat with all this like hidden Smarties and chocolate bars.
Oh yeah.
It's like, and it's like reach into her pocket, and they're like, "Here you go." It's like, you know.
Yeah.
And then the guys in the theater would come around with their flashlights, like, "What's this?" You know. Then my mom would always hide it away.
Yeah. No outside food. No.
Yeah.
We used to go in and bring that in. But, you know, I would go out and mow the lawn, but of course I had bad allergies, and so I'd be struggling trying to get through. My eyes would just be just poof, like, oh my gosh, it was terrible, sneezing and coughing, and my eyes be all swollen up. And, you know, or I'd go and shovel someone's, you know, if it was winter time, go and make some bunch of money shoveling driveways, or you know, I got a paper route, and I wasn't allowed to do a paper route until I was 12. No, I was 11. I wanted to do it, and they wouldn't let me. The company wouldn't let me do it. So I helped another paper boy at the time doing a route, and he would give me some funds, and I would save it up. And I said, well, I want to do your route, because I knew he was going to give it up, but the company wouldn't let me do it because you had to be of age to do the route. So then I took over his route, and then I eventually took over my brother's route, which then he didn't want to do it anymore. So my mom got it. So my mom did his route. So then I asked the company, well, can I get it from my mom? Do you think so? I go, as long as you can do that. And I love doing that one. I wanted that route. That was the first time, but I couldn't have it. So I did my route plus that route. The bigger route, it was 225 papers, Neil, everybody.
Oh, wow.
200, a whole trailer court. And I went around, and pretty well, most of them subscribed to it. Then I eventually, as time went on, I gave up the route. Like, it was a lot of work. There was a route that I did, one of my customers, I really did not. I did everything I could to get rid of this one customer, because it was further down from where all my other customers were. But I had to pedal down like another 10-minute ride on the bike down. And because it was a boundary, the company says technically, even though it's further, it's still within your boundary. I didn't want to deliver to him because he was a strange old man. And I felt very uncomfortable. And like, he'd asked me to come in for ice cream. And I told my mom that. She was, really? Oh, that's interesting. And I had a bad cold and allergies this one time around. So my mom says, well, I'll do your route for you. I said, okay, here's the addresses. So she went up there and delivered all the way up this guy's steep driveway up there. He's like, all the way up. She got back, she goes, later on, and she says, okay, you're not going to be delivering to that nasty old man anymore. And what? The guy hit on my mom.
Oh,
The
wow.
old guy hit on my mom. So she phoned up, my mom phoned up the paper company and said, no, my son's not going to be delivering there, and I'm not going to be doing. Sure. What do you mean, you? Well, I actually did his route for a couple of days because he was really not feeling well, and I had a bad allergy season that year, and it was just like I was sick. I couldn't go to school. I think I was off for almost a week. Yeah, and the guy, like, he literally he almost like trapped my mom in, like she had to go, and so like it was yeah. But anyway, so getting that, I miss my mom so much because she taught me a lot about respect and standing up for myself. She taught me for who I am now. She always told me to believe in myself and stand up for what I believed in. Like she always said, her and I used to get into arguments though, because she'd say, you can't beat the system, Brent. You can't beat the system. You have to accept the fact, accept what it is. I said, no. If you're gonna accept what it is, then you're letting yourself down. You need to stand up. And so I taught myself that, and I taught my mom that. And as my mom became older, I'd just be a teenager. But as I became a young adult, I taught my mom that. As I became more knowledgeable on things, she then realized that, hey, you're right. And so when it came time for me before I moved, my mom, financially, she started finding things a little bit harder. She had a hobby farm. Oh yeah, she had chickens, she had ducks, she had a potbelly pig. Oh yeah, but it was just a family pet. She didn't use it, for eating. But the potbelly pig, the thing was huge. It could barely walk. It was like, and she had cats. She had 12 cats. She had 2 dogs. She had budgies. She had some little rabbits out there in a cage, and she'd water them. And my responsibility, my mom would go away. She went to England. We sent her off to England one year, and she was away for about 3 months. And she wanted to make it worth her while to see her relatives. And so when she was away, I had to guess who had to take care of all the chores.
All the animals, yeah.
And all the eggs, collect the eggs, right? Yeah. So anyway, as time went on, it was a lot of work for her. When she came back, I could see that she needed that break. She applied for a Safe First program. It's for seniors. She had a meeting with her worker, which ended up being my worker years later, which I didn't realize. It was the same worker who administered seniors programs versus people with disabilities, right? So ended up being the same worker. And so I said to the worker, wow, this is a nice surprise. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too again, Brent. So how does that work? My mom just fills this out. Yeah, it's based on her notice of assessment from Revenue Canada. And so her rent is no more than it's like subsidized, no more than 30% of her income based on the household income. Now that threshold, as one of our guests that we've had before many times, talks about the threshold, BC's threshold versus Alberta's threshold. BC's needs to be $46,000. It was at the time my mom got it, was at $26,000 household income. My gosh. What happened was my mom says, well, this is great. At first, yeah, okay, well, your son, your older son, and Brent can live with you, and it's not going to affect their income. So he keeps paying his rent to you, okay, and no problem. What it was is that it actually did affect my mom. It did affect the income wise, because my brother was a professional painter. So my brother made a lot of income coming in, and he wasn't on disability. He's not disabled. he's got some issues that he's got to work out in his life, but he was never diagnosed with disability. I'm on the system. So unfortunately, the amount of income coming in was too much, basically, for according to the government, that there was too much money being made. So my mom didn't qualify for SAFERS. In order for her to continue to qualify, my brother would have to move, or I would have to move, in order to reduce down the household income to a threshold that she would then still qualify. And I thought, my God, like that is so cruel. And I even said that right to the worker. That is so, I said, so, and part of my language, everybody, I don't mean to, normally I don't swear on my show. I said, but that is so fucking unfair. And my mom says right to the worker, Brent, oh, please don't talk that way. I go, so means I have to move, or my brother does? I said, well, good. I mean, I'm hoping he does move. My mom, she got so mad with me then she says, oh, I'd love to slap him across the face right now. I'm like, what? Because I said, well, I'd love him to move. Well, because my brother and I always never saw eye to eye, right? So of course I'm going all happy, going, hey, yay, he can move. So what it was is that my mom had to make the ultimate harsh decision in her life. After kicking my dad out, the next bad thing was kicking my brother out. And my mom made it very vocal to the worker. She says, I already got rid of their father because he was an alcoholic. So what? And now I have to get rid of my son because the system won't allow me to have him living with me. He drives me places. He has a vehicle. He can drive. Brent can't drive. Brent is visually impaired. Brent has a learning disability. My God, like, what are you doing? It's the system. It's how the system is designed. And that's, I always stuck in my mind, is how the system is designed. And I thought, wow. So unfortunately, my brother had to move. And because my mom had said, well, Brent needs to be with me. Like, he has to be here. He can't be on his own unless you're going to up his income way up there. He's now going to be self-sufficient.
And all that decision has serious repercussions, right? Yeah, because like your mom was saying, I mean, your brother, as much as annoying as he was to you, he was support for your mom. Like she was saying, he can drive. He's a support for her, like just a physical support that she can get around better and do things better. So when you start to break up families, then it becomes more of a burden for the other person, right? So
that's what happened there, is that they basically took away her supports, physical supports that she had. I was there and my mom explained this to me over many times.
You were like the emotional support.
I was the emotional support person for her, because her and I got along and see eye to eye on a lot of things. There's things eye to eye that her and I did not see eye on to, but overall, her and I saw eye to eye on a lot of things. That she could talk to me about things regarding my brother that would bother her by the hell out of her, but he would be able, compensate by being able to provide physically, of like taking her places, doing things for her. That because she tried driving, it wasn't for her. She was a basket case. She told me, she said I'd be a wreck on the roads. And I said, well, you did the best you could. So with that is, so my brother had moved because, the government basically said, you made too much, so you can't be here. Yeah, go figure, because, so I had moved. I had moved with a friend of mine, which, fast forward, I mean, which is really great. She's a great friend of mine still, and even to this date, and a good friend of Sonia's. Yeah. So Sonia got to meet her, and so we had found a place, and I said, well, where? And so it was a 2-bedroom basement suite, and her sisters and her brother-in-law's house. Nice place, really good place. It was about a 15-minute walk to the bus, maybe 10 minutes, 10, 15, depending on how fast I walked. It got to a point where they wanted her sister wanted their family, so they wanted a basement suite to themselves. So we had to move. So I moved into Langley, into downtown Langley, which I used to ride my bike by the place Neil all the time, and everybody. I used to ride my go figure. I rode my bike by this apartment building, and oh, what is that building? Oh, never knowing that going fast forward that I would actually be living in that building. And that's how going forward. That's how I met Sonia. Like we connected, and then basically my roommate then she met somebody. She met her well, it was supposed to be her boyfriend. She met her boyfriend, was then my friend ended up having a kid with the boyfriend. And okay, well, yeah, and yeah, so happy go lucky for her. Didn't work out that way, but whatever. I mean, she made her decisions on that. Sonia and I, we chuckle about that because going forward. But my mom would come by to visit. My mom would come by to visit. I would look after her, and well, my friend would go to work, and so my mom would come by, and she's, "You can be okay with your mom?" I said, "Yeah, like I'll be. It's cool. Like it's cool. I'll make some tea." And so I said, "Mom, you want like some tea?" She goes, "I want a cup of coffee." Okay. So I said, "Okay." So I made the coffee. When's the tea coming, Brent? The tea. No problem, Mom. So I'm down boiling some tea. She says, "Oh, for God's sake, how long does it take to get the cup of coffee?" I'm like, "Oh, I think it was, oh my," but I had to keep my cool, right? Neil, like and I was thinking like, where are you at here? Like, and I knew like that state of mind, she's already going through this because her and I had already gone through this when I lived at her home. And meanwhile, I'm living in a basement suite. So I'm thinking, oh my God, like, oh, but I then became to realize, like, yeah, Brent, just go with the flow. You just have to work with your mom the best way you can. So my brother, like, he he'd give me a phone call one day. I was at a job, and again, and he says, I've got some news I need to talk to you about. And I said, can this not wait? I'm on the job site, like because I had a cell phone at the time. My first cell phone I had got, and my phone rang. I see my brother's number, and I'm thinking like I ignored it. He kept phoning me and phoning me, like he would not stop. And I thought, you jerk, like stop phoning me. You're gonna get me fired on my job. Like, and he didn't care. Why he didn't care is because what was important to him was he needed to communicate with me about some very, very troubling news that had been dropped on him and on my mom. So, well, guess what? I got fired for taking a phone call on the job, which affected my mom, affected me, affected my brother. I told the employer, I said, you know what, you can F right off. I said, you know what, my mom's more important.
Well, like for a family emergency,
yeah.
I mean,
I told the employer, but they said, can it not wait? And I told them what it was. I said, life goes on. Life goes on.
Wow.
Life goes on. Yes. And
wow.
and you know who the employer was? I'll say it around here. Thank you, Walmart. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Walmart. Yeah. Like, thank you very much.
That's why I don't feel bad because I don't ever shop there, and now I know why I never shop there.
Well, yeah, and and it was, yeah, like I had taken the phone call because my brother had got me this devastating news that my mom was getting kicked out of her place that she had lived in there since I was little tiny little toddler. Why? Because the owner had passed away and the home was given, my mom was renting. So the sisters took over the home, right? So they had ownership of it. Well, what it was is that they said that a family member was going to be moving into the home, and unfortunately, like the one sister needed to be close by Langley Memorial Hospital due to diagnostic testing she was going through in her life. So unfortunately, they needed to take possession for the sister to live there. So we went to a hearing through the BC Residential Tenancy branch hearing to go through that because my mom disputed it, and it had a notice of eviction. I saw it. My brother gave me a copy and showed it to me. I met up with him for lunch. Him and I were actually very civil. Like he sat down and he went and bought me lunch, and he says, the government's not going to deduct this off you, are they, Brent? Are they going to garnish you this off you because I'm buying you lunch as a gift? No. He says, because they do. He said, they're going to be talking to me. You've been through enough, he says, enough crap in your life. And I've gone through crap now dealing with the government on this. I thought, oh my God. He goes, oh, he said, heads are going to spin, man. I'm like, well, that was coming from my brother. So long story short is my mom lost a home because she lost the battle. I had gone to the hearing myself on behalf of my mom, and my brother were there, and one of our neighbors as a witness, because the doctor had signed off. Some doctor, not my family doctor. My family doctor would never have done that. So whoever's doctor that they had signed off on it and said, yes, my patient, what did he say? Oh yeah, my patient has been diagnosed with blip, and needs to have medical attention ongoing for a period of time, needs to reside at this address, at my mom's address. It was signed off by the doctor. Do I believe a word of it? No, I don't. Even to this date, no, I don't. Somebody got paid off here. Somebody got paid off, right? And I know that. Tennessee branch knows that. The officer, but you know what? They had to go with they had to go with the signature that's on there, and they had to go with it. And the documentation backed up each other. So wada bing, my mom lost it. My mom didn't even get back her damage deposit. After all those years, imagine how much money she would have had. Why didn't she get it back? Because my brother was so upset that my mom lost the place. My brother had built a shed on a cement platform that he had put cement down and laid the cement down and built a basically nice, good outhouse with a roof on there and everything, and hooked up, electricity to it. So my brother was smart. Like he even though he did painting, he actually did construction too. Like he learned from his big brother at the time and taught him a lot of stuff in the trade industry. So he learned a lot. He knew what he was doing. He got so mad he ripped down the whole shed, Neil. He took the whole shed right down.
I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah, he smashed it right down, like took it out. He smashed the concrete too that it was on, so that they couldn't use it again. And because the Tennessee Act says that it was damage done to the property because he had put foundation on there, it's now part of the property. Because they said technically it's part of the property. He damaged it, and because of that, my mom didn't get back her damage deposit. And I said, "Are you for real? Like, why?" Like I said to the Tennessee branch, I mean, wow. I said, so you tell my mom after how many years that all of a sudden she loses her home and my brother's not supposed to be upset. I said, not that I condole what he did. I said, but I don't blame him for what he did. They're like, and the officer of the Tennessee branch says, take those words back. I said, I will not take the words back. I said, do you know, I said, what this will do to my mom? And what it did actually deteriorated my mom's health. They were warned. The neighbor warned.
Everything's connected, right? Everything's
the lady warned, when my neighbor warned the branch said, if you take away her home, her health is going to deteriorate down because that's all she knows. And what it was is that she found another home on the next road over, and my mom called it the dungeon. It was a cement wall. There was a wood wall on the other side. She couldn't put no pictures up. And it felt very cold. It was just not warm. It was a tiny little place. And I saw my mom's health going all the way down. We then had to put her into a home. And after that, she went right downhill. I met up with her in Fort Langley. Her and I would go for a tea. I took her for a muffin, and I remember I was working at McDonald's at the time. Customer care. I had just got my a badge. Well, actually, I got the badge actually after. Yes, that's right. A magnetic badge that I was given because they really saw that I provided great customer service, and I was given a gold badge to wear as a magnetic one on as customer care specialist. Care specialist. I remember a day I was working, and it was in the summer, and I said this on my last podcast, July 21st, 2006. and I had gone into work, and I was asked if I could come in a little bit early, and I said, well, I said, yeah, okay. Yeah, it was an afternoon shift, and I was asked if I could come in at in the morning, because there was some activities going on, and they wanted to prepare, like get the things going, and so I had to get things stocked up and ready to go for a huge rush. So I got in there, but I got a phone call. I got up and got my morning going. I think I got up at 7 o'clock. Yeah, it was 7 o'clock in the morning. I got up and watched the news, and I'm sitting here having a cup of coffee. I just had my breakfast, and at 8:31 in the morning, I got a phone call. The clock literally, it was weird, because I was looking at, I had this temperature gauge. Of course, me and weather. I'm looking at what the temperature is inside my place, and okay, what's the humidity level at? And I'm looking at it, and I was watching something on the news, and they were talking about weather, and I thought, oh, okay. So I looked over at my temperature gauge, which was sitting right beside me, and I looked, and the clock had literally just turned, like literally turned at 8:31. My phone rang. I jumped. Jesus, like talk about like literally like right at the same time. My phone. I'm looking at the call display, and I see the home that my mom's at. Like, why are they calling me at 8:30 in the morning? Like, I'm like, hello? Like, and nobody there. Weird. So I hung up the phone, and then the phone rang. It rang 3 times. It went ring, 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 and it was like a steady ring, and it stopped. And then my phone, I thought, was there a malfunction on my phone? Like it was like a steady ring, then it cut. Like, what the hell? And so I called back to that number. I thought like it was like something telling me like, and so I called back, and I'm like, okay, you called? Like, who's this? And so I said, who is? Oh, yes, hi. We just tried calling you once. We have just called you. I go, no, you tried calling twice. No, we called you once. And I said, well, I missed your call. I called back. I'm thinking, well, why would my phone show up as twice? And it showed on my call display two missed, like it was called, twice. It was missed call. I'm thinking, what the hell? And so it tells me now that, and I really believe in, upper things, and some people don't, some people do. I believe that my mom was trying to reach out to me at the time to tell me like, hey, anyway, I phoned back, and they said, yeah, your mom slipped away, Brent. Like, well, where did that little, I still remember, I said, where did that little devil go? Where did that little devil go now? Because, they used to call and tell me like, hey, we're having a problem with your mom. Like she was kind of out of her mind, and she would be lashing out at people, and she was never that way. Like, she was always very kind, very warm-hearted person. Like, she would do anything for anybody. But she said, yeah, your mom slipped away this morning. Well, where did she go? Brent, she slipped away. I go, okay, I got it. And I said, I got that. Like, what are you telling me? Your mom passed away, Brent. And my jaw dropped. I literally dropped the receiver, and I was like stunned, like I was frozen, like I didn't know. And I hear this, hello, are you there? And so I pick up the phone. I go, I'm here. Okay, so what happens now is that, what do we do with her body? Oh, excuse me? Like, what do we do with her body? Like, and I thought that seemed kind of morbid. Like, it was like, really, like, I'm sorry. Like, how can we work with you? And we tried phoning your brother, but there was no answer. I go, well, that's the only number I have. So you'll have to keep trying. Like, I was just like, I got the phone. I hung up the phone. I just hung up the phone on them. And I was just so devastated. I went to work. Crazy, Brent. Crazy, Brent. I should have phoned in. Sonia said, if I would have known you back then, I would have said, no, you're not going to work. Like, but somebody told me that my mom would have wanted me to carry on and focus on the positive. And so I went, and I pushed myself to go to work. I ended up going to work, leaving about an hour and 20 minutes into my shift. But when I got there, and I want everyone to really listen to this part here. When I got there, I told them what happened, and everyone was very totally beyond understanding. Like, every single person working there, customers, all the employees, management, They all came to me and they all gave me a group hug.
Mm-hmm.
They said, like, go home. If you need to go home, go home. And I just kind of moped around for a bit, which is understandable, right? I was trying to cope hearing the news, and I could not. It took me a long time to cope, get through it. But here's the part which really freaked me out. A good friend of mine who worked for Coast Mountain Bus Company, he retired from there. I still stay in communication with him every so often.
I've had some great bus drivers through the years. I mean,
but he did he actually did planning for them. He did planning. Like, he taught me about planning, about what he does on the routes and stuff. It was so cool. Like, him and I meet up for coffee. For some reason, he showed up on my job that morning. He came in, opened up the door, like he, and it was like, just like these bars on the door. And it was like the store was kind of designed as the old replica way back in the 1950s, 60s type of deal. McDonald's was going through a trend at the time. A lot of their stores were, they had like the 50s, 60s type of sitting jukeboxes. And he literally opened up the door like that, and he's standing there and he looks at me. And I was mopping the floor at the time, and I stopped and I looked at him, he looked at me, he goes, "Hi." And I literally dropped the mop. I go, "Leonard, how are you?" Yes, the question is, how are you? And like, I hadn't told anybody what happened. And he says, I go, "Oh, I'm glad that you came in today." He looks at you, "Are you okay, Brent?" And I'm looking at him, like, a blank look on my face. And I literally started just bawling my eyes out when I saw him, right? And he says, "Oh my gosh," he says, and I told him what happened. He goes, "I knew it. I knew it. I knew there was a reason why I had to come here today." He said, "I woke up this morning and I was going to go somewhere else for coffee." And I said, "No, I want to go and see Brent today. I have to go and see Brent for some reason." He didn't know why, but something told him he needed to go to McDonald's. And the reason what, he's actually a priest. He's actually a priest also. And I didn't, like, I knew that at the time. So something must have told him that he needed to be there.
There's no accidents. There's no accidents.
It's not even coincidental. Like, there's things. And I've learned that in life, is that there's reasons why things happen for reasons. And even like to this date, I think back, and I got a text message from my aunt who said, I'm thinking about your mom today, and your mom is a very dear person. And so when I say to people, I know this is a long podcast, so I hope people really enjoy it. But when I learned about her, like, my mom was always my mom because that's who I knew, who had brought me up. But I got to know who my mother was, right? As I explained earlier in the podcast. So I would go to visit my mother, who lived out in Port Alberni. And with my stepdad, who I always called as my stepdad. He wasn't really my dad, but he always took me on as his son, right? I mean, him and I would, just sit around and just joke with each other, and it was good. Like, he would take me out for drives and stuff. We'd go out for a drive, and Bernie, you're gonna come along? No, you and Brent go out, and took me out to Tofino and all these windy roads, all the way out there, and I see all these crashy waves, and it was fun times. And a bear jumped out right in front of us. He skidded his tires, almost went into the bear. Oh my god, that would have been bad. And I was like, "Cool." No, it wasn't cool, Brent. The little baby cubs running out too, right? But I look at all the neat times, because I look back at it, and my mom and her, they got along really well. So I thought
that's great.
Actually. So yeah, like,
you thought?
Oh yeah, like they got along as I grew up.
Okay.
But what I didn't realize is that when my mom and dad separated, when my mom basically told my dad that go, he moved out to Winnipeg, because that's where my mom and my dad actually met, out in Winnipeg. When my mom came from England, she came over from England, and because that's where her mother, like, her mom and her came over to out, and they then they settled out in BC, because that's where the roots were anyway, where her mother's roots were originally, in BC. But her mother had moved out to England, like, they were back and forth, because her, I guess her, my mom's father, well, mother and father lived in England, and they were back and forth, right? So, but they, I guess, my mom had her roots. My mom's mom had her roots in BC. That's originally, I guess, it's an easy way to explain. But her father was in England. Like that's where. So I guess they somehow those two met somewhere. Those two met somewhere along the line, and then my mom came along, and then her brother lived up in the Okanagan, up in Armstrong. So I used to spend a lot of time with my mom. We'd go up to Armstrong. It was so cool when I was a kid, and go sledding and tobogganing down these. Yeah. So anyway, getting back to that is, so I'd spend a lot of time between my mother and my mom. But my mother would make me feel very awkward when I was a kid. When I say a kid, I mean young teenager, because I'd go to visit and she says, "Oh, did you go and ask your mother, Brent? Ask your mother if it's okay if you come to by to visit." Okay, I'll go and ask mom if I can. Well, no, just I'll go and ask Gladys if it's okay. And Gladys was my mom's name. Everyone's wondering why I say mother. Gladys was my mom's name, and Verna was my biological mother's name. So she would say, "Oh, ask Gladys if it's okay." And to me, I mean, you can imagine how I'm feeling, going, "Okay, like now you're making me feel uncomfortable," because I just say, "Well, yeah, mom, is it okay if I go visit, over my mother?" I think it was my mother that was feeling so uncomfortable because she really couldn't accept the fact that she had given me up for adoption when she was very, very, very young. Like when she was young, and then I mean, I found out years later that why she did, and the reason why she gave me up for adoption was um, she was going through a battle with my biological father, who couldn't accept the fact that I was born, that he didn't want to say that he was the father to me. And so because of it, there was a friction, and so she just gave me up. And I think there was a feud between those two. And so as I grew up, I kept asking questions. I kept saying, well, to my biological mother, "Well, who is my father? Why are you asking, Brent?" I go, "Because I'm just wondering, like, when I was in school, people were asking, and my teacher say, 'So who is your father?'" And she says, "You don't need to know that." And I said, "But I want to know that." Like even my mom said, "You should ask your mother one day, who is your father?"
Yeah.
And then, so I did, and so she wouldn't tell me, and I kept pushing and pushing, and she got pissed off at me. Oh yeah, like we're nice. My biological mother and I, we got into a yelling match. She says, "Brent, leave it alone." I go, "Why are you getting so testy with me?" And she goes, "He's not a nice man." I go, "Let me judge for that." I said, "If he wants to meet me."
Yeah.
So she says, "Well," so long story short on that is that I was, and this is going back to the Walmart days. I was at Walmart, and I got home. I got at the home where I called home at the time. It was kind of home, but it still didn't really feel like home because it was this. I don't know. It just didn't seem like home. Like it wasn't. Anyway, I got back, and Valerie, Sonia knows her. She had all these pieces of papers all lined up out in the living room and on the table, and I go, "Wow, what have you been doing?" "Oh, well, by the way," because she knew that I didn't want to. She was pissed off at my biological mother because she wouldn't say. She just told me to leave it alone. So guess what she was doing? She was doing some homework, digging. She goes, "Oh, by the way, there's a guy that's going to be coming by tomorrow. I hope you're not working." No, actually, I have tomorrow off. And that was the tomorrow off. Yeah, I said, "But I'm working the next day." And anyway, so that was the next day was the day that I lost my job. Go figure. So yeah, it kind of worked out anyway. But so anyway, I said, "Well, what's all this paper?" She goes, "You have a gentleman that's going to come by tomorrow. He wants to meet you." I go, "Okay, who?" Like you lost me somewhere here. She goes, your biological father." "Excuse me?" I'm like, "Say what?" I lost it. I go, "What the hell have you been doing? Why are you doing this? Like it's none of your business, and you can't be meddling in my life." And she says, "Well, I figured I'm trying to do you a good thing to, to find out who he is. And so I was grateful. Like at first I was like upset, and I was grateful, going, okay, like thank you so much. Like, you know, like she was, because she knew I wanted to find out more, and like I had some of the information already there, but she had actually took the initiative and actually took the step forward and made the call. And then so what it was that I found out who his brother was. I met with his brother first that same day in New Westminster. So I went there, and he was, okay, so there's apparently a guy that you're going to be meeting tomorrow, and he's my brother. What? He's my brother. He doesn't want to accept the fact that you are his son. Brent, you have to understand, like, you're going to have to maybe leave it alone, like touch base with him. If he wants to stay in contact, that's fine. It's up to him. I was, okay, so, and I'm like, well, he has a new family now, and he never told his new family about me. So anyway, I met, long story short, is that the guy came by, I met him, I opened the door, and he rang the doorbell, ding dong. And I was in a basement suite, and I saw him coming in the driveway. He didn't see me first. I thought, oh my God. So I opened the door, hi, he goes, hi. I'm looking at him, he looks at me. It's almost like that part in Back to the Future where the number 2, where she looks at her younger self, and then they look at each other, all of a sudden, well, I didn't to that point, but I looked at him, he looked at me, and I thought, oh my God. And then, but he denied it, though, you know what I mean? And I left him alone. I said, okay, like, you know, thank you. Like, you know, I know you feel like I'm your father, but what do you want from me? Like he said, like, I go, I don't want anything from you. Like I understand, like, you touched base to get a hold of me. You've been looking for me. And I said, well, my biological mother said that she didn't want me to contact you because apparently you're not a nice person. And really, do I seem like not a nice person? I go, no, you're really cool. Because that was her perception. The reason why is that she didn't want to see me get hurt, apparently, because I guess she was hurting because of you. Well, that was between me and her. And he finally admitted. He said, yeah, but I still don't know, like, who you are. Like, okay, so what, you didn't conceive, like you know, you two didn't conceive to have me as your child. Like, so he finally admitted, like another year later, like he admitted to me, like he phoned me and he said, hey, like, yeah, but can you please, like, I'm your father, but can you please just don't meddle in my life? And I mean, so I phoned up, and this one young guy answered the phone, you guys, and oh my gosh, and it was his son. It was his son. And I phoned up, I said, yeah, so I asked for him, the father, and then he goes, hello? And I go, hello? And I can mimic. It's neat because I don't know what it is, but I've got a talent where I can mimic voices. Say I can imitate people. I guess it's one of my traits I have. I hear, hello, hello. Who's this? And I go, this is Brent. Okay. Is there like an echo on the phone? I go, I don't know. I'm just phoning you. I want to speak to your father. He goes, excuse me? I want to speak to your father. He goes, who's this? I go, who's this? And like the voice, like it was like, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like you hear my voice, it sounded like it was amplifying on the phone. And he goes, hang on for a sec. Dad! He's screaming. He goes, I don't know what's going on here. There's some guy on the phone. He's like freaking me out. It sounds like I'm echoing on the phone. He goes, hang on, I'll take the other line. Yeah, I'll just take the line. Hang on. Hello. He goes, you can hang up the phone now. And he didn't hang up the phone. Like I could still hear the other phone off, right? He goes, hello. I go, hi, it's Brent. How's it going? Oh, hello. How are you? I'm like, wonderful. Thanks. He goes, well, I'm glad that your life is wonderful. My life is a living hell. I've now got my son asking me questions. I've got my wife asking me freaking questions. Can you please just stay out of our lives? I go, look, I don't want anything. He goes, what do you want? I go, I don't want anything from you. I just want to know who you were. Not going to ask questions of saying like, why did you abandon me or this and that? I said, I just want to know who you were. Just because for, hereditary. And he goes, okay.
And I mean, I've told you before that my first wife was adopted as well, right?
Yeah.
She was born to Jewish parents, and the father, my wife's father was always the birth father was always very, very supportive of everything. In fact, when their marriage fell apart and was having problems, he was the one that was wanting to take Elena alone by himself, but he did ultimately he didn't decide to do that. And he kind of, the last time I've talked to him, and Elena used to talk to him, he does regret that decision, actually. But it's funny because you're right about adopted kids wanting to know about their history, right? Because
absolutely.
that was a big thing with Ilana. And so she finally met her biological mother, and and Ilana was always very shoot from the hip. She always was like very honest, very blunt. She wanted to know like truth, right? And so she never really, it's like she's just like point blank. It's like so she said to her mom, like, now that you've seen me and you know who I am, do you regret your decision? And she's like, no, absolutely not. And of course that really stung, that really stung. And because this is the very first time that she's meeting her mom. And it was like the first and only time. It was like one time deal, first and only time. And I wasn't Elena's husband yet. Like it was about a year before I hooked up with her, actually, Elena. And she would always like relay this story about her meeting her mom for the first time, her biological mom. And it just floored her that her mom was not remorseful at all. Like she's like, no, I'm happy with the decision I made. I don't regret it at all. And Elena's like, you got to be kidding me. It really stung,
Oh yeah.
But having said that, though, and I know again it's your show. I just wanted to say that having said that, I mean, things work out sometimes for the better, in the sense that, I mean, Elena was adopted to amazing Dutch parents. Like her parents that she was adopted to. I always said that even though there was really no physical resemblance necessarily, it just felt like they were her physical parents. You understand? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, totally. Yeah,
physically they were her. Like as an outsider coming in and getting to know her parents, I'm going to her like, these are your parents. These are your physical parents. They are the ones. And I mean, and if she wasn't adopted, I would have never have met Elena. Like, her life would have been completely different. My life would have been completely different.
Yeah, there's like things happen for reasons.
So things like do this and weave and bob, and and you just kind of, life is like that. And life is on, like, has the deliberate paths, and like I said, nothing is accidental. So your life is the way it was meant to be, and my life was the way it was meant to be, and my previous wife, even though that she's in heaven now, she lived life to the fullest, and her life was the way it was meant to be too. So
there's reasons, and that's one thing I've come to realize in life. There's reasons why things happen for reasons. And I'm grateful to have known my mom. And so I would always stay in contact with my mother, right? Because then I would say, she says, "Oh, I miss your mom, Brent. I miss," and at that time, she finally started saying, "I miss your mom, Brent." And I thought, I said, "Thank you." Like, I'd say to my biological mother, I said, "Thank you. Like, thank you for saying that." And I then felt very comfortable explaining to her why I'm thanking her. And she goes, "Why?" Like, and then I said, "Because you used to call my mom by her name, which is fine, but you used to say, when I would say mom, you'd say, well, you would say her name, and like, and she was, because I felt very uncomfortable. I could never seem to always accept the fact that over that many years, I go, why was that? Just because I never wanted to give you up, but I felt I had no choice at the time. I go, right. And then I waited for that opportunity because she didn't know that I knew. I said, right, I guess that's the time that you tried fighting my mom in court to try and get custody of me. Just how do you know that? Like she was twisting things in a way that I was waiting for that opportunity, right? And she was, you weren't supposed to know that. I go, my mom wanted me to know that as I grew up. I said, and like she waited till my mom and my dad had separated. She waited till there was vulnerability and to see, she tried testing it in court to see if my mom was stable enough to, even though she was a single mother, bringing me up, but wanted to see if she could actually get custody of me, a custody battle. And I thought, oh my God, like, and I heard about that many years later, and I thought, and I forgave her. Like her and I would talk. Like I always stayed in contact, and God rest her soul too, because she passed away in 2015. So people go, oh my gosh, you lost two mothers. I go, yeah, I lost my mom in 2006, but I lost my mother in August of 2015. And I was living in downtown Langley at the time. And Sonia remembers that. Yeah, I remember that. We were watching TV or something. And I got a phone call from my aunt that told me that that her sister passed away, that my mother passed away. And I thought, oh my God, here I'm going through this again. You know what I mean? But nothing against my mother, everybody listening. Like I want everyone to understand, like I was like, oh my God, like not again. It didn't feel like I had the emotions there of the loss of my mother. I really had the loss of my mom because that's who I grew up with. And I was still very upset. I mean, don't get me wrong. Someone said, oh my God, Brent, how could you say that? Like, how could you not feel the emotion of the loss? I did. It really hurt me. Like it really set home because after I lost my mom, I was still able to talk to my mother about how I felt, what I was going through. My mother would phone me up while she was going through her terminal illness. And I was able to talk to her a lot. And she kept telling me, I'm sorry, Brent, I didn't mean to put you through hell, through life. And I said, do you have any regrets? And I said, I know you're dying, Mom. And I called her, she finally called her mom. I said, I know you're dying. She says, I didn't mean to put your mom through a custody battle when you were younger. I said, do you have regrets? She goes, I do. I should have never done that. I didn't mean to hurt you. And I said, but you did though. Like her and I would talk on the phone. Like I said, but you did though. You did hurt me. Like, and I remember things when my dad, after my mom told him to leave, like he used to throw beer bottles at my mom. I'd be told to go to my room, like to, be safe in a safe spot. But when my mother got to hear about that, that's when she started rocking the boat, right? But God rest them, they're both their souls, right? Because they both were really good friends as I grew up. They would come by for lunch. He would come and take my mom and me out for lunch. Like it was so cool. Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted everyone to understand that this is the origin of where I grew up in Langley. That's what I know as my hometown. So when I talk about Langley so much, it's what I knew. I moved to Surrey. And yeah, before that, I moved to Kamloops. I moved to Surrey. Then I moved out to, from Langley again. I moved to Nanaimo. Sonia, after we got chased out by bed bugs, so we ended up losing our place. We had to stay at a hotel, almost like witchcraft, what witchcraft is going through. Not exactly, because witchcraft is actually homeless right now. But when people say they're homeless,
we should say that's the Twitter name of somebody.
That's the Twitter name of someone right now. Her name's going as witchcraft. She's homeless. She was able to stay in a motel. For me and Sonia, thank gosh, we were able to stay at a hotel at the time where I was able to get a really good deal with the manager. He struck me a really good deal, flat rate, small rate every day. I got free breakfast. I mean, why not, right? It was part of the hotel, so I still was able to get that. But it wasn't my home. I lost my address. I had no fixed address. Quickly, we had to make a quick decision. I was applying around for places to rent. Corporate landlords were saying, no, your income's not high enough. My income's not high enough. No, I had to be making $4,500 a month.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so fast forward, that kept going on. So we moved to Nanaimo. We found some places there. It just to Sonia and myself, it didn't feel like home. She didn't really, I mean, she grew up out there, right? But it really wasn't home to her. She always knew Langley as a home because her grandparents and her dad used to fly out to Langley Airport when her dad had a plane, had his own company. So apparently, yeah, ironically, yeah, and I probably bumped into her many years ago and didn't even realize it. Yeah, and so anyway, she was called Langley as her place that she wanted to be. We found a place, Neil, and I used to talk about this on my podcast. I got about 15 minutes, and then we'll end the segment here. But so I used to talk about Langley a lot in the podcast, and I'd say, well, Langley is my hometown, which it is. But we moved to a nice place, right? And I said that in that one segment I did when I did a coffee time. It was almost like a Breaking with Brent coffee time.
The place to be. Langley is the place to be.
And I lost it on there. But it's funny, a plane flew by right at the time. And I would say about that. And I went to the MLA in Langley not too long ago. We were out there out and about, and I did the Breaking with Brent segment, and we went and saw the MLA, and I told him, I said, like, this is a place that we want to be back at. And he's like, well, yeah, it is. Langley's the place to be. I said, right. So he said, well, go and talk to the housing minister. Well, we did. We told him did talk to the housing minister, and we said, well, it's where we want to be. And ironically, the housing minister is the one who we wanted to come onto the show, but unfortunately, the housing minister is not able to come onto the show. I'm not sure why.
Well, I'm still looking into getting him to do that.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome.
Because I think it is still possible. Because I reached out again when I got the no. I said, well, just so you know that Brent is very passionate about housing, and I do think it would be a wonderful opportunity for the minister to come on, and I got a more positive response back. So I'm still gonna get my feelers out and try again.
Yeah, I think it'd be wonderful to have the minister join us on the show, because then he could talk about the different types of housing and what's going on in the housing market. I mean, just so PWD have a better understanding of where things are at. I mean, and all the ministries are interconnected, right? I mean, if you don't have the resources, you don't have the housing. If you don't have the housing, that affects your health. That affects your health and puts strain on the healthcare system. So it's all interconnected. So having his perspective would be awesome. So getting back to about the housing that I had is that I told the minister at the time that we had the housing. We had a beautiful place. I saw it getting built. Sonia goes, wouldn't that be nice if we could live in that brand new place getting built? I said, well, yeah, right. Yeah, good luck with that, right? I mean, we would never qualify for something like that. But they weren't one of the corporate landlords that was judging people. If you could pay your rent, that's all they cared about. You paid your rent. As long as you could pay your rent and that you still got enough left that you could live, no problem. Like they weren't judgmental. Talk to the security guy all the time because they'd have it all fenced off and he'd be showing around. I would love one of these days, sir. I'd love to live there. Go and apply. Go and apply. He says, go and apply. He says, apply. Okay, yeah. Here's a business card. Gave me the business card one day, and I said, actually, give it to Sonia. Sonia hung on to the business card. And one day she said, you know what? I think we should call this number. I go, I'm not going to get in that place. We wouldn't qualify. They probably want a lot of money to get in there. She goes, how do you know unless we don't give them a call? Well, we were living in an apartment building on 203rd Street and 54th Avenue or 53rd Avenue. and the place was badly infested with mold, mildew. People were doing drugs underneath our unit, around, like it was circulating all around. They deliberately put us in the wrong unit. The unit, what we wanted was further down the building, but it wasn't available. So they said, here, we got this unit. It was a setup. Anyway, they wanted to flip it over, right? We toughed it out. We kept applying around while we were still living there. And I didn't know about this liquid damages clause thing. Yeah, we found out the hard way at the new place. But yeah, liquid damages, everyone, just so you know, it's a terminology. It's like breaking a lease agreement. It's like breaking a cell phone agreement or your cable company agreement. You got to pay out rather than every a little bit every month. They want lump sum. Okay, that's what liquid damages clause is. I didn't know anything about that. But anyway, we toughed it out at the old place that we lived at. We applied out in Chilliwack, and they wouldn't even give us a place out there. Probably a good thing that we didn't take the one place, eh? One lady, she passed away inside the building, and they said that she had to get relocated to another place, but the unit was available. So I'm glad I didn't take that place. And she kept saying, like, why, Sonia? Why don't you want this unit? She goes, because I just want to get out of here. And while we were covering our mouth, I covered my mouth up, and goes, what do you think? I'm like, let's get out of here. So she goes, well, you want time to think. And so, yeah, we found that out. And no thanks. Hey, it was only $900 a month. It's only $900 a month. I mean, wow. Hey, that would have been a great deal.
Yeah.
Still more than PWD's check, though. I mean, the shelter portion, but still, it was. So, long story short, so we got the new place. The COVID supplement was in place, $300. NewsHour interviewed us and said, hey, what would happen if the government took that away? Well, we would have to move. It would change our whole life. I couldn't buy healthy food. I couldn't go and buy some necessity things I need. I said I would love to go and try and buy an iPad or maybe a tablet, for myself to enlarge print, for as an extension for my disability for myself. Like there's things that I would need to buy or maybe save up, and I could maybe go somewhere. Like it would change my whole life in so many ways. So like positive, right? The government at the time said, hey, we're going to claw this off. We're going to get rid of half of it. We had a meeting with I can now say it now. We had a meeting with the premier at the time, and he had said, well, he'll keep advocating to bring it back, right? At that time, I didn't realize that it was actually in a report. It was actually a report that was to be submitted. At that time, it wasn't submitted. It's now in a report that states one of the top recommendations to bring it back was in there of restoring the $300 supplement. And it's still there. It's in there, January 28th of 2021. If anyone wants to pull it up, look under, just do a search on Twitter for it under BC poverty reduction and look for a COVID supplement. You'll find the link. I'll post it out anyway, again, just to remind them that, hey, I haven't forgotten that you need to restore it. Because it affected our lives. Why? Because I went to the ministry. When we applied for this new place that we had, they said, the manager said, one of the criteria, we need to have your income to show that you can afford to rent here. Right? We were paying $1,510. And so basically, yeah, like we could afford to live there. Yes, it was a little bit more than what we were paying at our older place, but we said we'd rather pay a little bit more to have a brand new place, dignity, respect, autonomy, making decisions for ourselves. And the manager was cool with that. Like she was cool. She said, yeah, hey, I went to the ministry and they said, this is a printout given to landlords going forward, Brent. This is the amount, the new amount going forward, $1,515 going forward. This is your new amount. Well, fast forward. Guess what the new amount is?
Yeah.
We lost our place because if we would have had that amount, we would have still been living where we were living.
Yeah, if everything had stayed the same, you wouldn't have had to move. Yeah.
But we got pushed into another unit in our building because the manager at the time, they had an alternative situation they were doing. They cleared up 2 floors of people. They wanted to turn over. So we had a choice of getting another unit of $1,775. We couldn't afford that. We tried. we winged it. We gave our notice in without even finding a place. Like we were that desperate to get out of there because we couldn't afford it, because the government had taken it away. And we said we couldn't afford to live here. We figured for sure we're going to find a place to live, but didn't know that corporate landlords were playing games and saying that you got to be making no less than $5,000 or $4,500 in equivalent. They said that, you know, your government should be giving you no less than $2,000 a month to live. I said, well, no way the government's going to do that. Like, there's just no way. So that's what happened. We had to revoke our tenancy, our notice. And then thank gosh they didn't rent it out at the time. So we had to revoke it. Then we finally realized, we toughed it out for like months. And then we said, well, you know what, we're going to have to give her notice. And we did find a place. Sonia found the place actually out here in Victoria. I had made piles of phone calls and I talked to other landlords. I told them our situation. And they said, you'll find something out here. And I said, I think Sonia might have found something. And they knew, the other landlord knew about this place. They said, yeah, that's a good place. That's one of the, you know, one of the better places. So we found it. We went and saw it, and I phoned up. They had a telephone outage at the time. The whole network was down. And Sonia just keep phoning. We got to get this place. And I go, I can't get through. Like, there's no dial tone. So I kept trying. And then she says, I said, I'll try one more time. And if not, I'll have to try again later on or tomorrow. So I tried one more time, and I phoned. The phone rang. This lady answered. She goes, you know, for where we're living now, and their head office. And she goes, I hear, oh my God, my phone actually rings. She goes, hello? I'm like, hello? Like, you know, like, yeah. And she goes, oh, is somebody there? I go, yeah, I'm here. She goes, oh, okay, I'm not hearing things. And she goes, can I help you? I go, oh, yeah, I've been trying to phone this number all day, and I can't get through. There's no dial tone. And I heard this also about all circuits are busy now. And she goes, yeah, we've been having phone problems. Can I help you? I go, oh, she goes, you're the first call of the day. First call of the day. She goes, yeah, our phone system's been down. She goes, what can I help you with? I said, I'm looking for a place to live. Oh, okay. Most people are looking for a place to live, sir. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's called. It's called putting a roof over your head. She was actually kind of comical to me. So she's, okay, bring your check, bring your first month's damage deposit and your rent for first month out and your references, and we'll see. I'm like, what? So it came out, made the appointment, came out here a day sooner so we could check out the hood. Right? Yeah, I just want to make sure about this, eh? So checked it out. Yeah, everything's fine. Met up. 15 minutes later, we met with the manager. I figured it was the lady I talked to on the phone. No, it was a manager, different one. Oh, who are you? Anyway, she showed us around. She just have a seat outside the door, and they have a little bench outside our door. So I have a seat up there. 15 minutes later, she comes back. She goes, you and Sonia have the place. 15 minutes later. I've never in my life experienced that before. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
She knew because she phoned our manager, and our manager did not want us to move. She wanted us to be happy from Langley, but she, yeah. And so I phoned her. I was so excited. And normally you don't phone up your previous manager or like where you're actually living and saying, hey, by the way, so-and-so called you, didn't they? Yeah. So they were both excited for us on both ends. Like, and because they wanted us to be happy. They knew we weren't going to be happy living in Victoria, happy going there as a tourist to visit it. Yes. To live here? No. We've adapted for now. Everybody watching this and listening. Is it our home? No. How long are we going to be living here? I don't know. Could be here another year. I don't know. If I had my way, I'd be in Langley right now. Sonia knows that too. She keeps looking at ads all the time, reminding me, well, such and such place, you know that one, yeah. How much is it now? Oh, $1,800 to $1,875, over $2,000. I go, Sonia, the checks won't do it. I said, the government won't raise their income. And that's my point, everybody. I want to make sure that the government needs to listen to the advocates. Don't listen to your stakeholders. Don't listen to your gatekeepers, okay? Listen to the advocates. Listen to the lived experience recipients who are disabled, low-income disabled people. Yes, some people are very fortunate that they have other income that they can actually supplement. That's great. That's great if you can do that. If you can't, the government has a legal responsibility to taking care of its citizens in this province and in every other province in this country. Nobody should be living in poverty. There's collective wealth in this country. It's the corporate landlords. And you know, Jeff Leggett's posted about it just recently. Go look up his tweets on that. He makes a very good, valid point. There's billionaires, millionaires making almost over equal or just above over 1.5 million disabled. He made a point just today. I think it was 1.6 or 1.7 million people that are actually millionaires. Imagine taking some of that money off and giving back to the disabled people. Those millionaires, they could use it as a tax write-off. They're going to get that money back anyway. They don't even see
they already get tax write-offs, right?
Exactly. They don't even pay taxes in this country.
Yeah.
So anyway, give it back. I mean, it's an income inequality, and I think it just needs to be revamped. These programs are not working for people. The government knows it. We know it. They know it. Computer system's been broken since 2002. It's going to take, it's 20 years old. It can't handle big increases.
It needs more hamsters in the wheels.
And I don't believe it. I don't believe that. Like, I mean, that's like telling people that they dismantled the bus pass program, right? Oh.
Anyway, you're kind of getting up to your mic drop moment there, Brent, and we've been on for almost 2.5 hours. So
this is the longest.
Not that I want to kick you off of your own show, but I'm basically basically kicking you off of your own show. It's time to go, Brent.
Brent, stop.
Yeah.
Actually, thanks, Neil, for doing this segment with me.
And
thank you for tuning in and listening to Brent's long spiel.
It was good though. It was was long, but I mean, at some point it has to end. So I just wanted to like cut it off.
Yeah. Exactly. That's one of the funny moments too. It's like cut it. And anyone who wants to hear more, like, listen to my podcast, because I will be kind of bringing up little bits as I go along. And then I kind of look at past experience based on current circumstances. And that's why I bring on guests to talk about these things too, because everyone has a lot of similarities of what they're going through. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. And again, I say this on every podcast: subscribe, click, share,
like us, please,
and like us. And if you're on Twitter, retweet it, as long as Elon Musk is allowing that to keep happening. And then stay tuned to our upcoming episode where I'll be launching and talking about our new added feature. I know I talk about it a lot, but I'm looking into a few things about our phone-in program. So yeah,
we've got a new outro that we're gonna unveil a new outro song today.
Oh, I'm looking forward to
the one that we kind of played for a little bit on yesterday's show.
Yeah.
That Jake brought up the phone and played a little bit. I'm going to be playing that outro as we leave today.
Right on.
So there you go.
And that sounds really awesome. And our next guest is actually on Monday. Our next guest is on Monday. So that will
Sheila Malcolmson, the Honorable
Sheila Malcolmson, MLA for Nanaimo. So,
and we promise there'll be no darts thrown. There'll be no darts.
No darts. No.
Yeah, only at the policy, not directed at her. We are very harmless people.
Well, exactly. And it's all about policy.
It's all about the policy.
It doesn't matter which government it is. It's on who wants to keep that policy in place, right? And who wants to change it. And that's what needs to change. It's who wants to change it.
Yeah.
Interesting show coming up on Monday.
It will be. I'll be advertising it out soon. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway,
thanks everyone for tuning in and listening to me ramble on. Brent.
Here comes the cane. Here comes the cane now. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.